What's up guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel once again. My name is Dash Lifestyle. Kindly for watching me for the first time, remember to subscribe, like, share and also comment. To my returning subscriber, thank you so much for always coming back and watching my video. Thank you so much for the love and support, and greetings to my brothers and sisters all the way from Caribbean country. So guys, in today's video I want us to watch and to listen to this powerful message from the one of African leader. She's called Dr. Arikana. We all know guys, Dr. Arikana, she's known for fighting for the rights of the black people, and also she's always preaching unity among the black people from America, the black Americans, the black people from Caribbean, the Afro-Caribbean. She's all calling unity among the black people, and also she's calling unity among the African country. We as black people, together with our African country, we should unite, we should come together. And also she's exposing how the West, they are using Africa, how the West, they are plundering African country. So kindly guys, watch this video, then I'll be back with the more comment.
Never too busy for my children.
Thank you, I appreciate that. It's nice of you. Let's start our discussion about clarifying the image of Africa. Now, Africa is still viewed in the 21st century by looking at the back, like the 20th century colonization, and Africa's being exploited and so on. How do you describe the 21st century Africa?
Well, let me start by saying, in order for you to understand the 21st century Africa, you got to go back. And let me take you back to the 1800s. And more specifically, I want to start with that decisive decision that was taken by our colonizers in 1884, when they decided to meet in Berlin during the Berlin Conference and chopped up our Africa into the tiny little countries that you see today. You see, you got to understand the reason they came together to meet in Berlin was to figure out a way that they can effectively exploit the African people and see to it that Africa and its people are forever defeated. So Berlin Conference was a very pivotal decision that was made by our colonizers. So the more the countries got together, the more countries that came out of it. The more the tribes got together, the more countries that came out of it. The more the tribes didn't get along, the bigger the country came together. So basically it was clearly divide and conquer. So that was one. Secondly, they also saw the seed that made Africans believe that everything African was bad and everything Western, particularly in those days French and British, was more desirable and better. So that seed also was sown back in 1884 during the Berlin Conference. Fast forward, nothing has changed. The little country of Burundi, the little country of Rwanda, the country of Djibouti, Benin, Central African Republic, Togo, as a matter of fact, all the African countries were such small economies that it's very difficult to survive. It's very difficult to really take the country to the highest level that it can be. And also, we have very small economies that are easy to destabilize. So it's not bad enough that they broke us up into these tiny little countries in 1884 when they were leaving the continent, particularly France. France made its colonies, former colonies, sign what we call the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. In this pact, the African countries were told, you got to pay colonial debt. What is colonial debt? They said, we brought you education. We built a few roads. We taught you about eating with a teaspoon and a fork. We call that colonial debt. You're going to pay that to perpetuity. To this day, African countries are still paying, Francophone African countries are still paying colonial debt. They also said, we will manage your money for you. All your monies will be printed in France. 85% of your bank reserves will be kept in France. And then collectively, we will pull that 85% from your countries and we will invest in the French stock market and under the French name, and your countries may or may not know what the returns are. And then not only that, the mineral resources, the oil, all of it discovered and yet to be discovered, France has the first right of refusal. French companies, they're going to be doing the mining. running the oil rigs, all the major projects, private and public. French companies have first right of refusal. The African companies only get whatever the French companies do not take. It's very difficult.
So the picture that we have in the 21st century is Africa trapped by its past.
Very much so, because that pact for the continuation of colonization is in the books today and is still in force. French countries don't print their own money. Francophone African countries. So when you look at the pact for the continuation of colonization, you look at, for example, you look at Germany. What the havoc Germany created in Namibia, Germany continues to have a very strong hold in Namibia. Look at Belgium. What Belgium, King Leopold did in the Congo. Over 75% of the population of the Congo was annihilated by King Leopold. And Belgium continues to have a very strong presence in the Congo. The British, not as strong a hold as the French, but they still have a significant influence. British companies who own significant assets on the continent. 75% is reported of the resources at the London Stock Exchange are resources coming out of Africa, owned by English companies. In doing business in Africa. So when you look at Africa today, it's really Africa of yesteryear. And until we, the Africans, come together and realize that we're still very much under the control.
Destiny.
Yes, we're still very much under the influence of our colonizers.
So what do you think should be done, for example, to change the future and have better destiny? What should Africans do?
Africa needs to wake up. Okay. The Africans need to wake up. Why are we still continuing with the pact for the continuation of colonization? The Francophone countries need to come together and in a united way let France know that simply cannot go on. Africa is big enough. If only the Western world could stop exploiting Africa. Africa can absorb everybody. The whole world could move into Africa and everybody will do well. But the greed and selfishness coming out of the West is keeping Africa from moving forward. Now, there are others who may beg to differ and say, but Ambassador, there's a lot of corruption. I'll say, yes, I agree with you. Some might say we have corruption. The numbers are saying about $50 billion leaves Africa to Europe through corruption. Well, I'm saying, who is receiving that money? You see, it takes two to tango. I can't be corrupt by myself. So while we talk about corruption in Africa, let's also talk about the corruptors who are receiving that $50 billion. That's one. Secondly, if you want to talk about the $50 billion that's coming out of Africa, claiming that the leaders are taking the money, yes, we do have some, very few African leaders that are not doing it by their people. The majority of the African leaders are doing very well by their people. Be it as it may, you take 50 billion through corruption. France alone is taking out of Africa 500 to 600 billion every year. So if we want to talk about this 50 billion, we must also talk about the 500 billion. That is just France alone. We're not talking about Germany. We're not talking about Belgium. We're not talking about Britain. Are you with me? It's upwards of billions of dollars are coming out of Africa. Nobody wants to touch this 10,000 pound gorilla. I am saying, in order for us to really look at 21st century Africa, we must understand our history that continues to be alive and well in our lives today. And guess who needs to make that change? Who needs to get that understanding and realization? It's you and I, the Africans.
We have to come together, renegotiate with other partnering continents to shape the future of Africa.
But in order for us to even go to the negotiating table, we must clean our mind. Because we are very much colonized. You know as much as I do, my brother. You walk into a negotiating table. In general, we, black people, we go in feeling superior to our Caucasian brothers and sisters. And they come in feeling superior. So before the conversation even begins, we, the Africans, are
already defeated.
Are already defeated. How do you get a Francophone man in Africa, African Francophone, who actually believes he's a Frenchman? How then do you take him, put him on the same table with the Frenchman and expecting him to feel equal?
How can we change the mindset?
We continue to talk, which is why I'm glad you brought me here. Because it's about awareness, It's about getting people to understand our history, where we have been, and how much our past, sadly for us, our past is still very much alive and well within us. So we need to wake up as Africans and realize that we're just as smart as everybody else, and that when we go to the negotiating table, we should have nothing but Africa on our minds. Our problem is we are now being used as our own instrument for self-destruction. We are the ones who talk negative about Africa all the time. They feed us the information and we don't even realize that we are being manipulated. And we are the worst when it comes to Africa. No, other countries, no matter how bad things are in their countries, they stand up for their countries and they defend their countries. It's like a family. You and I, my brother, we can fight within ourselves in the home. But the minute an outsider comes in, no, game is over. We are after the outsider. We need to realize that as Africa, we are a family and we have a responsibility to defend Africa at all costs, because they are using us to destroy ourselves. We are inheritors of an amazing continent, richest continent by far in the world. No continent comes even close. And every day we are discovering more and more resources, while the rest of the world is looking to Africa for all its needs. Its children, the Africans, the African diaspora. We're completely oblivious to that fact.
Yeah, but by the way, there's a very powerful quotation which says, we found the enemy and it is us.
Yes.
So where Africa,
Yes.
we can trace back is us. And if we want to have a different future, then the change starts within. And I think schools, media, leaders, and so on play a great role to change that. I just want to also talk about...
Let me correct you on that one. The media also is not playing a good role.
The African media, I mean.
is painting, even that media is controlled. It's painting a negative image of Africa. The media could, but the media is not telling the story. It's perpetuating the same narrative of a dark, diseased continent, dying people, at war with itself. The media could also help us by showing a balanced view of Africa. That is not happening. That's why we have to tell our own stories.
Yeah, individually using the social media, opportunities like that too. So let's talk about the relationship between, because you're ambassador of African Union in the United States. How is the relationship between Africa and the United States nowadays?
Well, America remains the most preferred partner by the Africans, by far. So I hope that I was sent here to make sure that that relationship...
Why is that important? Why America is especially favored by Africa?
Because the manner in which America comes into Africa, they bring superior products, they push democracy and good governance, but in general, you know what you're getting when you're dealing with the United States. And we don't have the legacy of colonialism weighing in on us. So the US is not as entrenched in Africa as, say, France and Britain and Germany and Belgium. Germany, of course, you find stronger roots in countries like Namibia, and of course Britain in the former British colonies. So America is, and by the way, let me make it clear, America was invited to join the Berlin Conference, and America turned down that invitation. So we don't have those roots, minus slavery.
No resentment towards America.
None, with the exception of the history of slavery.
The former colonizers. Yeah.
Oh, the former colonizers, they are still in deep. So I think that's why America is easier to swallow.
And also America resonates with us because they were colonized by Great Britain.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They know the pain.
What it feels.
They feel the pain. Yeah. So America is in a good place. Yeah. But my biggest fear right now is that if America does not strategize, re-strategize, then there's a new kid on the block, which is China. You see, the difference with the Western countries is when African countries needed money, the Western countries made the African countries jump through all kinds of hoops. Then China realized that if I'm going to join this game, I need to come with a different strategy. So China would say, how much with the checkbook? Ready to write the check. China is coming in with a different strategy. It's a new kid on the block, and I think the U.S. needs to re-strategize, and I think they're already doing it. I think we got China giving an additional 60 billion to the African leaders during the last FOCAC meeting, which was held a couple of weeks ago. I am here to make sure that the relationship between Africa and the United States is the best that it can be. In my own assessment, our lack of understanding of each other is a serious problem. We Africans, we come in feeling inferior from the legacy of colonialism. Thank you very much. And the Americans come in feeling superior. So we're sort of running parallel to each other. So not having a truly meaningful conversation. We need to step up and realize that we're just as good as anybody else. And our friends needs to also come off their high horses, and we meet each other in the middle, which is where we belong. And we can have a truly meaningful conversation as equals.
And it's a win-win, I believe. If we come together,
Absolutely.
There are a lot of opportunities. As you said, America is losing ground in Africa. If there is good relationship between America and Africa, American businesses could be able to invest in Africa,
Absolutely.
compete in Africa, and also benefit from the products and services that come from Africa.
America is still preferred. American products are still preferred. So I do not want to see America lose that ground. So that's one of the mandates that I have, to see to it that we have the best relationship that we can have with the United States. I'm a woman on a mission, and I intend to win on that score.
Yeah.
Now, for that also to succeed, we also have to look at the wealth of the diaspora, African diaspora that are in this country, and their contributions. You know, I remember years ago when Secretary Clinton then, she had a program that was called International Diaspora Engagement Alliance. At that inaugural meeting, Secretary Clinton said, years ago, when America needed friends, America sent Americans all over the world to make friends. She said, now America's investment is complete. There is not a single country in the world that is not represented here in this country. The same is true for Africa. So if American businesses are trying to get into Africa, why do it alone? You have friends right here.
Yeah, the diaspora, they can create the bridge.
Absolutely. And so that's one message I'm trying to push, because I hear a lot of complaints and problems that American businesses are running into, trying to get into Africa. They say, oh, it's so difficult to do business in Africa. Something that should take 1 month will take a year. When you go in with somebody who knows the terrain,
the culture,
it makes it easy. Don't do it alone. Don't reinvent the wheel. The diaspora are already here. I know there are some who have partnered with diaspora, and the experience wasn't the best that it can be. Well, guess what? That's why we are here.
We learn from that, and also African Union right here.
That's our job as the African Union mission. And by the way, we are located on 1640 Wisconsin Avenue, Northwest, right here in Washington, D.C. It is our job to partner American businesses with the right diaspora. We're not claiming to be perfect individuals, but we will do our best to partner the American companies with the right diaspora. So your entry into a country between the African Union mission, the embassies, and our diaspora, we can put together a package that will make it easier for American businesses. For example, Montgomery County, which is where we are now. We would love to partner with the county. It's a very rich county. It's a county with a very large population of the African diaspora. We'd like to create those relationships and have you guys hold each other's hands and waltz your way into Africa. You know, with a beautiful melody, and we will serenade you.
Guys, I hope you have watched that video from this African leader. She's known as Dr. Arikana, and you guys will all know Dr. Arikana. She's known for fighting for the rights of the black people, and also she's known for uniting all black people, the black Americans, the black people from Caribbean, the Afro-Caribbean. She's always calling unity amongst the black people, and also she has exposed how the West, they are plundering the African, how they are using African as their source of income in their country. And also, guys, I want to react on what this Dr. Arikana, she has come out and say. She said that they were a meeting which the West, they hold a meeting in Berlin, and in this meeting they were discussing how they will cut the cake, how they will divide the cake. And in this context, the cake, it is Africa. They were discussing how they are going to divide Africa and how they are going to share this Africa. And that's why during the colonization, we saw that there were a lot of countries, a lot of West country coming to Africa and colonize Africa. It is all because of how these people, they were dividing this Africa. They saw that this cake, and this cake, it is Africa. They saw that this cake, it is so sweet, and this cake, they need to share it. And that's why, and that's how they came here in Africa. They divide Africa and they start plumbering Africa. They start eating this cake slowly by slowly, and up to date they don't want to leave this Africa. And also Dr. Arikana, she has come out and say the reasons to why we have some countries, some African country, they are still lacking behind. It is because of how these colonizers, they are still taking their resources. They are still benefiting from some of the African country, and that's why some of the African country, it is lag behind. And Dr. Arikana, she's calling upon all African people to come together, all African people to unite, because when we as African people we unite, we'll be coming strong, and also we'll be developing. And also in this Africa, it is the huge continent, it is a large continent, and Africa can hold each and everybody here in Africa. And the biggest fear that these people, they are fearing about Africa, they don't want to see African people uniting. They don't want to see the Black Americans uniting with the people from Caribbean. They don't want to see people from Caribbean uniting with people from Africa. They don't want African to unite. This is one of the biggest fear that these people, they fear, and that's why they keep on separating African people by dividing Africa, by telling Africa not to love each other. Dr. Arikana, she has come out and said the biggest problem that we as African we have, it is not the biggest problem is we cannot hold each other hands. We cannot support each other. We cannot help each other. This is now the biggest problem that we as African people we have. For the longest time, I've been telling you that we as African people, we are known of supporting other races than our own race. That's why we as African, we are not growing. You will find that Africa, he or she is leaving African store and go do a shopping to a Chinese store, do a shopping to a white store, do a shopping to Indian store. But Africans, he or she cannot go and support their fellow African store. This also, it is the one of the biggest problem, and all these problems started during the colonization. You have heard what the Dr. Arikana, she has said. These people, when they divided Africa, they taught African people not to support your own race, not to love your own West. They taught African people everything in the Africa, it is bad, but everything that they have in their country, in the Western country, it is good. And that's why up to date, we have seen some of the African people, they want to leave Africa to go and live in their country, in the colonizers' country. And we as African, we can do it here in Africa without going to their country. It is upon our leaders to come together and work according to the will of the people. We as African leaders, we need to come together and start to work in our country. We want to see African developing. We want to see African become stronger again. We don't want these people to come here in Africa and using our resources to fund their to create more jobs in their country. They're using our resources to fund the healthcare in their country, while Africans, they live poor as it. And that's one of the biggest problem that we have here in Africa. Also, we as African people, we need to stop hating on each other. We should come together. We should support our own. We should support our own races so that we can go far, so that we can develop. I want to see African becoming borderless. Although these people, they came and divided this Africa, they came and divide this cake. They came and starting eating this cake slowly. Up to date, they are still eating this cake. We need them to stop and to leave Africa how it is, because we are tired as African people seeing how Africa it is being used. not only Africa, also the country from the Caribbean. Look what they are doing to Jamaicans. They gave Jamaicans a fake independence, and Africa, it is a predominantly black nation. The people from Jamaica, also they came from Africa. The people from Haiti, also they came from Africa. These people, they don't want to see Africans country, Africa, the black people country developing than their own country. They will find any reasons to drag the country behind. Look what they did to Haiti. Up to today, Haiti, it is still fighting, and it is because of them. They don't want to see Haiti growing. They don't want to see Haiti developing. What is happening in Jamaica also, they don't want to leave Jamaica. They gave Jamaica fake independence, but up to today, they are the head of Jamaicans. They are the head of state in Jamaica. They are controlling a lot of things, what it is happening in Jamaica. This is to tell you that these people, they don't want to leave black people country. What it is happening in some of the African country. Look what it is happening in Nigeria. The leaders, they have been turned to be puppet. The leaders are working to the colonizers. They are selling out the country. They are selling out their minerals to the colonizers, and that's how these people, they are benefiting from Africa, and that's why they don't want to see African uniting. For so long, I've been telling you that they will reach a time, they will reach a point whereby African will come together. African will become borderless. African will be using one currency. African will be using one network. Africans will not go in their land to become to live better. Africans will not go out of Africa to go and look job from the white man's land. It will reach a time whereby Africa will be printing its own money, and when that time will come, now these people will start to fear Africa. These people will now start to respect Africa. These people will now leave their country to come in Africa, because everything, it is here in Africa. For so many times I've been telling you that these people, they cannot do without Africa. These people, the reasons why they don't want to leave Africa, because when they will leave Africa, they will finish. They don't want to leave Africa because they know they depend so much in Africa. That's why they came in the Berlin meeting and discussed how they are going to share Africa. And for me, what Dr. Arikana, she has come out and say, it is very, very powerful message to all black people. I want to see black people coming in Africa. I want to see all black people supporting Africa. I want to see all black people who they are the black Americans, the people from Caribbean, investing in Africa, building Africa so that Africa can develop, so that Africa can become more stronger, so that these people cannot plumbering African anymore. So kindly guys, I want this video to go viral. You can like this video so that it can go viral. You can also share with your family, with your friend, and to the leaders who are still becoming the puppet, so that they can stop becoming puppet. I've told you that revolution, it has started in Africa. Some of the African country, revolution, it has started. So it is us African youth, it is us African leaders to make sure that this revolution, we are having a successful revolution in Africa. These people, they need to leave Africa. Look what it is happening in Burkina Faso. The Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore is removing all colonizers thing in Burkina Faso. The same way I want to see some of the African country taking that direction by removing all the colonizers, by removing all the system of the colonizer, so that African, we can become more stronger. So kindly guys, thank you so much. Subscribe if you haven't. Like this video, share, and also comment. See you on my next one. Bye bye.